Hello everyone, welcome to Mint Analysis for 21 March 2022. So in today's highlight we will see how can PLIs help India to leapfrog to green mobility. So green mobility is a sector which is gaining attraction in various companies and we are seeing boost in EV sales and such such and many such players. So what are the PLI schemes that are there in place for such companies who wants to boost its manufacturing? So first of all, let us know that why do we need to, push forward these PLI schemes right now and why not before or after? So after the breakdown of pandemic, we have seen that many of our raw materials, or you can say the basic parts, were being imported from China. And after facing the pandemic disruption, after the supply chains were disrupted and we were not able to import those materials, we had faced a cut down in the manufacturing of those parts, those manufacturing units. So, for example, due to semiconductor shortages, we were not able to make electronic devices, so many of electronic devices, and the prices were uh, they shooted up. So, to prevent such disruptions and to have some companies in house who are manufacturing these parts, PLI schemes were set up. And right now, these PLI schemes, they are mainly three PLI schemes which are catering to three different newer technologies. So we will see that these three PLI schemes are: first is scheme for automobiles and auto components, second is for advanced chemical cell battery storage, third is development of a semiconductor. So automobile, battery storage and semiconductor. These are the three PLI schemes that we are seeing, and these are in place to address the issues of encouraging local production of new technologies. So through this, we are introducing local production. So now these companies will be producing these parts locally, and for that they will gain an incentive from government side. And once they manufacture it, if they are able to attain economies of scale, reduce their cost, then they can further export these materials. So this is the plan we have, and these three PLI schemes, they are catering to these three technologies, which are battery EVs, hydrogen fuel cells, and advanced auto components. So this is the workflow. This is what is there in the minds of government and the companies who are taking the advantage of these PLI schemes, and it has been a success till now, since you can see that the auto PLI scheme for proposed investment of close to rupees 75,000 crore. So for auto sector investment, it has already been around rupees 75,000 for the coming 5 years. And so, some companies which have backed these PLI schemes are Rajesh Exports and Ola Electric. So these are not the main players in the market, but they are the new investors who will be taking advantages of the PLI scheme and further will manufacture these components and provide it to the companies wherever these parts will be required, so that we won't need countries like China to import such kind of raw material, or you can say semiconductors or these basic parts. So this is the plan. Hope it will work out in the near future. Now let us go to the main news. Banks to take future retail to debt recovery tribunal. So what happened was that Amazon and RIL were in clash. Amazon said that future should have been offered to us first instead of RIL. Meanwhile, this issue came up where RIL has already acquired 950 retail stores of Future, and Future is now saying that it didn't know that the agreement was such that these retail stores could be passed on to RIL. So now the ones who are majorly in stress right now are the lenders of Future Retail, because Future Retail, these 950 stores that Future Retail had, they had substantial value in terms of assets, and now these belong to RIL. And if lenders further sue Future Retail, then it will delay the proceedings and they will receive their amounts even later, and they don't want it to happen. So they are saying that we will go through the channel of debt recovery tribunal or bankruptcy tribunal. So these are the two channels that they will be pursuing. The lenders of the Future Retail will be pursuing to have their money back. And the third thing that they will be doing is that they have tasked Bank of Baroda to file case under Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act or SARFAESI Act. So they have tasked Bank of Baroda to have a SARFAESI Act on place. So these are some channels they are pursuing to have their money back, and hopefully they will be able to. And let's see how RIL will play its role. So next is the wait for a sweet moment for LIC's IPO. So LIC's IPO is just getting delayed, and right last time we heard about it, they were saying that it will be probably be launched in May. So which means that in March, so after 31st March 2022 is crossed, it will mean that the disinvestment proposal that the government had, so to raise the amount of rupees 78,000 crore rupees for the fiscal year 2022, that won't be happening anytime soon. So maybe in the near future they will be able to monetize this LIC and have the correct valuation in place. That's why they are preferring to delay the process and have a good valuation instead of just hurrying up and fulfill their targets. So they are still hoping for the stability of markets, and let's see how it goes. Next is loss making PSUs under government's lens. So government is right now disinvesting from the non-strategic assets. So one is LIC IPO that we have seen. Second is about the lands that these PSUs had, and now they are also disinvesting from the PSUs if they are not performing well or they are not they are not a strategic asset to the government. So there are three options to government what they can do with these PSUs, heavy industries PSUs, they call it. So either they will close these units, or they will restructure it, or they will disinvest from these companies. These are the three things that the government can do. So for heavy industries, you have seen these three steps. For the lands that I was saying, for the land, unutilized land that these PSUs have, they are considering to set up a special SPV to monetize that land. And for LIC IPO, they are going to bring the IPO around May. So these are the three steps that you should know how government is trying to disinvest and have the money so that it can further apply that money in other economic activities. Next is India to boost wheat exports to fill void left by Ukraine conflict. So because of this Ukraine conflict, many countries are now approaching to India to secure the wheat supplies. And some of these countries include Egypt, Israel, Oman, Nigeria, South Africa, etc. So these are some countries that will be approaching to India, and India is right now to handle the logistics. So for to give them the wheat, they will have to address the logistical bottlenecks, how they will make this happen, how they will, which ports will be used, which railways will be used, which routes will be used. So this is a challenge that India is facing right now. And also, if this happens, the India is also facing the cost of fertilizer, since fertilizer cost is going up and the season is nearby. So even if India supply these countries, then it will have the impact on it in its own country, so the price of food might go up in India also. So that is the problem that India might face in near future. However, the current challenge that it is facing is regarding the logistics. Tea Board of India set for overhaul as exports falter. So the Tea Board of India. So why they are considering this rule right now? There are three main reasons. The first is that over the years, the tea exporters are facing issues because of which the amount for which they used to export teas, that is going down. So for example, you can see that the value of tea exports has slipped from 828 million in 1213. So in 1213 it was 828 million, in 1718 it was $785 million, and in 2021 it was $700 million. And latest figures show, so from April to January 2022 it was 628, which is again down from 642 in the previous period. So because the tea export, the value is decreasing. Second, that these they are facing competition from other countries like Kenya and Sri Lanka. So that is also adding up to it. So that's also why an amendment is needed. And the third recent thing is that Western sanctions on Russia, which used to import tea from India, is also threatening the exports. So we used to provide them tea, we used to provide Russia the tea, and right now due to sanctions, we will not be able to do so. So that's why an amendment is also required so that we can at least boost some kind of tea exports. So for that, right now it is being suggested that tea board should be a facilitator more and not a regulator. So it should be more of a facilitator to facilitate the trade and not a regulator who will decide the prices and how it should be done. So more of a facilitator. That is the amendment they are going to bring. Next is working to improve tax literacy. So government right now is trying to improve the tax literacy among the public. Why so? Because they want to improve the collection of taxes. So for example, in the past itself, we have seen that the public didn't have bank literacy. They didn't know how to open a bank account, what will be the benefits, what will be the challenges. But once the public started and get to know about it, even during the demonetization, it was given a big push. So once public get to know about it, there were more bank accounts. There was Jan Dhan Yojana in place to open more bank accounts. So due to this, the bank had more money now, and this money can be utilized better by the government for the betterment of the economy. Similarly, in tax, if tax literacy will be provided, there will be more tax collections to the government, and this money can further be utilized for betterment of the economy. So that is the purpose. Next is government looks to classify cryptos under GST. So right now, cryptos industry, only the cryptos exchanges were under the GST, and that too because cryptos were classified in the financial services. Crypto exchanges were classified into financial services, and then these were charged at 18% GST. But now the cryptos itself will be they are considering to turn cryptos under some bracket so that they can apply the transaction of cryptos in GST, and this will ensure more GST revenues to the government. The government is also trying other channels. It is not here. So the other channels are, for example, increasing the GST slab from 5% to 8% for some of the commodities, and to impose GST which were in zero bracket, 0% bracket. So there will be some kind of GST on those as well. For example, the local brands which do not have a tag or which doesn't come under GST itself. So right now, government is looking to how can it increase its GST revenues, and this is one of them. Next is telecom industry to propose new micro definition of AGR. AGR is annual gross revenue. So uh, why do we need the proper definition? So right now the macro definition is already at its place, but we need a micro definition as to which you can say which income will come under AGR. This is because when so you should know that when a spectrum is leased by a government to this telecom industry don't pay them the full amount of that spectrum. Instead, they pay a percentage of their AGR to the government as a fees. So that's why AGR becomes important, that which items will fall under AGR, because on that the percentage will be calculated and given to the government as a fees. And this issue was raised in 2019 as well, when the Supreme Court gave a judgment in favor of government and said that the non-operating revenue will also come under AGR, because of which their fees rose, and they were now liable to pay more amount to the government. Because of which Vodafone Idea eventually had to sell their stake to government so that they can pay the fee. So to avoid any such confusion and situation, they are going to have opinions of the telecom industry as to what they want to consider in AGR. So that's why a micro definition is needed right now. Next is earnings are in focus after a market rally. So volatility indices are going down in India as well as in US. So you can see that for for India, the volatility index is India VIX, and for US it is CBOE VIX. and both of them are seeing a decline, which means the volatility is decreasing, which means that investor confidence is increasing. So it's a good sign. And if it happens, if the volatility indices even go further down for India, maybe the government will push the LIC IPO as well, because this is the major indicator it is following to measure the volatility in the market. And to have a good valuation, it will prefer a low volatility in India. Next is RRVL buys 89% stake in Clovia for rupees 950 crore, 950 crore. So Reliance Retail Ventures is buying 89% stake so that it can gain a foothold in fashion market. So Clovia operates in fashion market, and to gain a control in fashion market, a foothold in fashion market, Reliance is pursuing Clovia, this company, and buying stake in it. And recently, many such companies we have seen that, for example, Titan recently was going to buy a stake in Noise, which produces wearables. So this is how the companies tap into new markets where they see they can increase the revenues, or they can see the public wants these type of goods. So the benefit of which is that they don't have to incur cost in this R&D cost in it, and they already get a pre-established customer base, the customer base that these companies have established. And this is why Reliance was actually aiming to buy Future Retail itself, because it's a sector, the fashion industry, that they wanted to gain a foothold in. After oil price hike, Aramco plans to boost production. So why Aramco is right now trying to boost its production when all the other its competitors are moving towards zero carbon emission and reducing the exploration. So Aramco sees and forecasts that in the upcoming future, the demand for oil is not going to go down, and it forecasts more growth in investment unit uh, until the middle of the decade. So it sees that at least till the middle of the decade, we will have demand, we will have growth. So that's why it is increasing the capital expenditure. So before in 2021, it was $32 million, and now it is increasing it to $40 billion or 50 billion this year. So this is why the shift, so the perspective that Aramco has towards the market, what it sees in the near future, that is leading it to increasing its capital expenditure. While its other competitors are not doing so, they are saying that for reaching carbon emission zero, these things should be curtailed down because there will be less demand from the companies. Companies will be moving towards newer technologies, so they are not incurring this high amount on capital expenditure, whereas Aramco is incurring these capital expenditure because it sees a demand in the future. And apart from this, Aramco is also focusing on blue hydrogen production. And why? Because net carbon zero emission means that you should not harm the environment, right? And carbon emission should be low. But if we move towards blue hydrogen production, it emits only water vapor. So that's why it is focusing on blue hydrogen production as well. Smartphone TV prices may rise. So as you have seen that in China, COVID cases are rising. That's why we are saying that the prices of smartphone and TV might again rise as a consequence of it. Suzuki to invest rupees 10,000 crore for local manufacturing of BEVs, which is battery electronic vehicles. So you have seen that there were PLI schemes in place for this, and it's actually how the companies get benefited. So once incentives are there, so more and more companies eye towards that sector. And right now, Suzuki is trying to invest rupees 10,000 crore in the same sector, which is battery electronic vehicles. Common plans to merge BBNL and BSNL. This is another highlight. So by doing this, they aim to turn around the loss-making state-run telco through a host of cost-cutting measures. That's the plan of government. Now, next news is FMCG to go for 10% price hike to reduce inflationary pressures. So, because there are supply bottlenecks from the crude oil perspective, so that's why the oil prices were going up due to the sanctions as well. And now the prices of wheat might go up because wheat will be provided to other countries which are approaching India, and due to the rise in fertilizer cost, again the price will go up. So that's why, as a measure, FMCG is planning to hike the prices by 10% to reduce inflationary pressures. So this is all we have in today's newspaper. If it has helped you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. To join my Telegram group, you can join it from the link given in description. Thank you.